All right, everybody, welcome back to the Pro Physique Code. And I got
What's up?
my girl Daraja with us. How you doing, DJ?
What's up, guys? Actually, let me make sure I'm talking into the microphone. You can hear
Yeah,
me okay, right?
yeah, I honestly believe the microphone is off and it's through your headphones because I can hear your you move the mic and the audio didn't change at all, but the audio sounds good, so I wouldn't mess with it.
Okay.
That's
All
my
right.
opinion. If you go on your settings, I bet you it says earbuds or earpods or whatever you call those things.
I should have definitely checked that before we hit
So while you're doing that,
record.
I'm going to let everyone know we're talking about, if they didn't read the title of the podcast, we're going to talk about Pro Bikini. There's been two major pro shows this month, and we're going to talk about the overall kind of what we've seen from the sport, because there's been some, as Brittany Hamilton likes to call it, heavy hitters on the stage. Every top 6 Olympian except you has been on stage this year.
Indeed.
There you go. Now it's your microphone. I
Yeah.
can tell. Yeah, I can tell the difference.
Okay, good. I'm sorry, guys.
Yeah, so I'm gonna be. I know it by heart. I don't need pictures. I was gonna say we're not gonna incorporate pictures in the podcast anyway, but I think let's start with the Arnold, because what was cool about this year's Arnold was you and I got to literally watch it from center stage. And the nice thing about the Arnold, don't get me wrong, I love the Olympia, but 54 is a lot.
Right,
Uh,
compared to what was it, 8?
I think there was
How many?
I think it was 9,
9?
because it was supposed to be 10, but then India and I think Phoebe dropped out, and then they added Alessia. So it ended up being 9. And one of those being a pro debut, but the other 8 were, very, very seasoned pros in the sport. So it's always interesting to see, like, okay, what direction are they going to go with the sport? And I did a podcast prior, and they, of course, they wanted my prediction. And I
Of
said,
course.
and my prediction was it's Maureen's show. The biggest variable will be Laura Lee. Like,
Of
is
course.
she the 5th place Laura Lee, or is she the Arnold champion Laura Lee?
Yeah.
But I felt the placings would stay in order other than Laura Lee. I thought she was the one that could either be 1st or 4th. I didn't, she's, and of course we all know how that went. So let me get your thoughts on when they came out for groups, to refresh. What did you see?
Honestly, for me it was a very clear Laura Lee and Maureen. Um, you know, Jen brought a much tighter package to the Olympia, so I think having her having not have been rewarded for that, right? Because she felt like she came in better. It was the best she ever looked. We saw her tie-ins like we'd never seen them before. And so it was going to be, I guess, a question of whether or not she was going to bring that same package, or if she was going to change it back up a little bit, go back to maybe a softer look. I think she was a little too full from the back. So I think seeing Lee and seeing Laura Lee and Maureen, I think look the best. I think that they had looked, in my opinion. I mean, Maureen to me still brought an amazing package. I don't think she really missed anything since being out of the Olympia. I think it was 8 weeks prior. And then Laura Lee came out. I mean, as soon as she walked out, I was like, that's Laura Lee.
Yeah.
That was a Laura Lee I think the judges love to see. They love to see her nice and full. So it was cool to see that.
Yeah. And again, when I initially saw them, I thought, okay, Maureen is perfect. She looks great. Laura Lee is perfect. She looks great. And they immediately moved them both to the center. The nice thing about the Arnold was, because it was so brief, I mean, they really didn't, there wasn't a lot of call outs. It was just 2 call outs. They had the initial call out that they just did the top 4. They didn't even mess around with the 5th through 9th. They said, these are our top 4, which was, everyone could have wrote that down on paper. The biggest question was, again, Laura Lee, is she 4th, 3rd, 2nd, or 1st? They moved her to the middle. It was her and Maureen. Now, and I think we talked about this in Ohio, when we started looking at the pictures, because in the moment you're not noticing all the little details, but I think the judges are. I thought, okay, Maureen's hair is a little bit long, and when I looked at her pictures from the Olympia, maybe she just didn't get it cut for 8 or 9 weeks because it was kind of covering her suit and her waist.
Yeah, and I think I've seen it that long before, so I guess I hadn't really even noticed. I didn't really notice it.
And I don't know if that was necessarily what was the difference between them, or Laura Lee is just better when she's at her best.
Right.
But you know, when you're up there, like I think they're picking apart every little detail they can.
Yeah.
And I don't I don't think it was close. They didn't make it seem like it was close. It was, I think 1, 2, 3, 4 were, I didn't look at the scorecards, but I think they were perfect scores, no? Like clear first,
I
clear
didn't
second.
I didn't I didn't see
Yeah.
it,
So
but
I don't want to assume that. Um, but yeah,
but I
so
don't think it was, what I will say is I don't think that, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
is there someone outside your house and Sebastian's on guard duty? Yeah. So for those that don't know, Daraja has a terrier who is very protective of their house, and so he can see out the window. Anyway, she's scolding him with her phone on mute. so so the difference between Laura Lee and Maureen is kind of drastic because Laura Lee is quite a bit taller. Maureen, I'm not, I don't know if she's the shortest bikini Olympia champion, but certainly in the last 10 she is, because she's at that 5 foot mark. So you know, it's even more drastic than like a Daraja and Laura Lee, you know. So it's apples and oranges. It's hard to even say like, okay, we're looking at the same physique. It's, you know, shoulders, glutes, okay, structure, beauty are all unique to each of them. So how they choose that winner, it's got to be based on, you know, the standard of the division. And I felt like Laura Lee, being the Arnold champion, the Pittsburgh Pro champion, the New York Pro champion, going into the Olympia, it was kind of the momentum that, you know, they just didn't like her look at the Olympia, and she made that correction.
Yes, and that's what I was gonna say is Laura Lee and Maureen, I think, were both on. Like it wasn't like
Yeah.
Laura Lee beat Maureen because Maureen was off, or it was a pretty clear like, okay, these two are just on it. Okay, which one is it gonna be that day?
Yeah. And so both of us were, I don't know, I felt it was Laura Lee's day. She just had that like vibe, like her walkout, her confidence, her, you know, even if she didn't win, she just had the vibe like she was going to win. You can just, I don't know, you know, you would know this better than me, but like when you're on, there's just a like energy
There's an
about you.
energy, there's like a vibe, yeah. I think it's like there's that content, like yeah, like I brought it. It is what it is.
Right.
So it was cool to see. And obviously like getting a chance to chat with her, and getting to know her a little bit better too, you know, it was cool to just see her, you know, get a
Yeah.
win after the year she had too. So
Yeah. So I mean, and it's going to set up a very interesting year, because there's, you know, a long time
mhm.
to the Olympia, and
Oh
this year I
yeah.
believe Laura Lee's pretty set on taking off a substantial amount of time.
Yeah.
So I did pull up the scorecard.
Okay.
So it was not a perfect score. So Laura Lee won with a score of 7. A perfect score would have been a 5.
Okay.
So it was technically a 2 point win, which means it was like, you know, 3 of the judges had Laura Lee winning. 3 more judges had Laura Lee winning because they dropped the high and the low. So either way there, it was not unanimous.
It was
But
close.
it was unanimous. So it would have been 10 would have been unanimous for third. No, I'm sorry. 15 would have been unanimous for third, and that was unanimous for Jennifer and for Ashley. Those were unanimous. So
Mm-hmm.
a couple judges were either way on Maureen and Laura Lee. So that's interesting. That, you know, that sets up an interesting year. But what I definitely noticed was they really are going with the fullness,
Yeah. I
muscle
was just thinking
fullness.
that as you were like talking through the scores, I was like, they are really just wanting these girls full.
Yeah. Yeah. And in fact, the one athlete that probably stood out the most to me was Romina, because I thought that
Yeah.
was the, you know, and I didn't see her in person at the New York Pro when she won 2 years ago, or was he, you know, 2 years ago. I haven't seen her in person every time, but I've been at a lot of her damn shows over the years. She's been, you know, very high
She's a
level competitor.
Florida girl. Yeah.
Florida girl, and she's done Arnold's, Olympias, she's everywhere. And she's gone through phases, and I feel like that was the best I ever saw her. I really
She
wanted
looked
her in that top
amazing.
4 call out. I wish they would have done 5.
Yeah.
I feel like she would have pushed Ashley a little bit there.
You think so? Yeah.
Maybe, it's hard to say. Ashley is got a lot of muscle, and she's obviously, maybe it wouldn't have, but it's just always nice to see you never get to see them side by side.
I
Sometimes, like,
know.
the 4-5 or the 3-4s, like you at the Olympia, you and Ashley were on opposite sides.
Hmm.
And then they switched you to opposite sides. You never stood side
Right.
by side with her at the Olympia. So,
Okay, I see what you're saying.
not that they need that, because they're, obviously they're so good at their jobs, judging. The physique that stood out probably the most in the worst way was Alessia. She
She was
was
very lean.
shredded.
I mean, like like when you watch her on stage, because we were there obviously watching it, and I was like, wow. But then when you look at it on the monitor, which makes them, I think, look even harder, it was like, dude, she definitely came in shredded, and the judges obviously don't prefer that for our
Yeah, and I've
category.
been there when she's won shows before, and it's usually a nice,
A fuller look for
she's
sure.
got, when you just break down the bikini standard, sometimes you look at her, and you go, she shouldn't be winning. But when she hits her front pose, you go, okay, she's got the balance, she's got the fullness, she's got the
Shape,
shape.
yeah.
Her core is tight, the curves are good. So she actually is very tough to beat. But she, if I remember correctly, when she walked, there was like full striations in
Oh
her
my
glutes,
gosh. Yeah.
veins in her upper hamstrings.
It was
Um,
wild.
and who knows? I think she had just done a show a week before
Yeah, and
in
she traveled from overseas,
Singapore.
I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it could have just been too much.
You just drop weight. You sometimes you do a show, you get on a flight. Who knows? Maybe she just couldn't fill back out in time, or maybe
Yeah.
she just started dropping weight.
Right.
But we know she'll be back. And then, the other one, I was expecting Ivana Eskandar to kind of be
She was on the
potentially
leaner side
fighting.
too.
She was very hard.
Yeah.
And Steven told me, like, that's how she was looking in Europe last year, early in the season, and she was winning all the shows.
Wow. Okay.
So she's a really good competitor. And
Yeah,
obviously
she's consistent.
she can show up at any show and win. Like,
Mhm.
they like her when she's on. So it was a cool lineup to see. But it just makes this year again more exciting. And with the new rules,
I
everyone that
know,
was
no more
there has
point
to compete.
system.
Everyone that was there. So obviously Jennifer Dory is qualified, Ashley is
Mhm.
qualified,
Laura
Maureen
Lee's
is
qualified
qualified,
now.
and now Laura Lee is qualified. But Evie, Romina, Alessia, she qualified the week before, Eli
Mm.
Fernandez, none of them are qualified. So
Phoebe's qualified because she got
Phoebe is qualified. Yep. So,
so.
but it's already, and then we had at the Clash this weekend, we had another top 6 Olympian get qualified. So it's going to be interesting to see where these girls get on stage this year, like what their strategies are.
I know it is. It's gonna be interesting because we do have a long time. So it's just, making sure you strategize. Like for us, we decided we're gonna wait. We're not gonna try to come
Yeah.
out early and then try to maintain. Because I think for us the goal is to come out looking really fresh and to have enough time to really improve. And it's hard to do in a very short amount of time. So why rush it? You know?
Yeah. And I mean, we very much pay attention to what's going on with you and your life and your body. And last year was, there was like 2 full seasons in last season, the early season break and the wedding, and then Olympia prep. Right. So this year it'll be nice. We're just going to do
Oh
into
yeah.
the Olympia prep.
I'm excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited about that.
Well, and I saw you this weekend. And I think everybody that saw you was like, oh, okay.
I don't know. You just hit that point in off season when you give your body enough time and you make it through that kind of rough patch where you're just like, oh, this is shit. I'm just fuck it. Like, I'm just gonna eat now because, like, what's the point? I definitely had my moments where I was just like, damn, like I just look like a blob today. But I I kept my head on.
Yeah.
And I gave my body a break when it told me it needed a break, didn't push when because obviously, we were pushing the training, we're trying to improve the glutes, we're eating good. But some days, my body is like, girl, I think we're a little tired. And I'm like, all right, girl, let's take a break. And
Yeah.
it's been working. It's been working. I feel really, really good.
Yeah, I mean, this is all new territory for because it used to be, prior to the COVID times, very consistent. The Olympia was September, the Arnold
I
was March.
know.
If you didn't win the Olympia, you applied for the Arnold, you tried to do both. Now it's like, man, for us, it was like, is it even worth doing the Arnold if we have to prep for another 9 or 10 weeks and we need to make improvements?
Hell no.
And then imagine had you done it. I mean, you would have
First
faced
of
the
all,
exact same lineup that we just saw at the Olympia, right? Like the old days, the top girl at the Olympia didn't show up.
right.
So it was kind of like the chance for the new girls to move up.
No, that was just not that wasn't in the cards for me this year.
Yeah. So I was, when that list came out, I was like, yep, we made the right decision.
Yeah. Plus,
Had
I
that.
think getting a chance to really enjoy that Olympia win, like that fourth place.
Yeah.
I think had we jumped right into another prep, it would have been like when I got my pro card, it was like I got my pro card and then it's like boom, pro show, and then it's boom, Olympia qualified. And like it felt good to just sit with that and be like, pat myself on the back, enjoy it, live in the fields for a while, and carry that momentum into off season, because who knows what would have happened at the Arnold, probably being pretty tired like that. Just, I don't know, that doesn't sound ideal.
Yeah.
So
and you had your honeymoon in that time, so it's not like it was even on the table.
I was
really.
like, not even. Yeah. Plus my husband, he's earned that. He's he's been patient. We planned the wedding and everything around, when the prep was going to be, Olympia was going to be, and we delayed the honeymoon, which ended up working out. We both were happy we did it, but I'm glad we got to kind of, have that in doses.
Yeah, that worked out great. So let's and Keith is a real one. He just got done with the TPC Sawgrass. So shout out to Keith. Actually, Keith is the one that got you to compete in bodybuilding.
Yeah.
I think most people would find that, like, considering he's never done a bodybuilding show, that's
no, crazy. Never. He was like, hey, I think you'd be good at this. And I was like, what is that?
Maybe he should get into talent scouting. You could just, you just have him walk up to girls. Hey, I think you should do bikini competitions, although he might get sued for that.
I was gonna say that sounds like a YouTube
that comes
channel.
Off a little creepy. Hey, I'd like to see you in a bikini.
Yikes. Anyways.
All right. So we now know that Laura Lee came in and, brought the package that the judges probably wanted to see from her at the Olympia. And just like you said, you got to enjoy your fourth place. I don't know that Maureen got to enjoy being the Olympia champion because she stayed in prep. And I get it. She had never won the Arnold. So like,
I mean, it was a good move, to do that. It just didn't.
I wonder if she had it to do over, if she would have done it. I'm saying now, looking back, if she would have, because the aura is gone now. Now it's like, okay, it's, because she was on a streak there where she was just like climbing. So, and in other news, Jennifer dropped back to third. She went from Arnold champion, Olympia second, Arnold third. So now there's like this.
That honestly, to me, just goes to show like this Olympia is going to be, it's going to be interesting. Because
it's been a few years in a row now. We have not had a consecutive champion. I want to say 5 or 6 years. I think Angelica Teixeira was the last back-to-back.
To have back-to-back, yeah. I know, but I know Laura Lee's hungry for it because, I mean, that's just the one she hasn't nailed yet. So she's coming for it. She's coming for it.
Yeah. So let's move on to, there was a couple international shows I didn't keep up with. I wasn't familiar with the athletes, but the next big pro show was in our backyard last weekend. So we got to witness the athletes up close and personal. I actually had 4 pro competitors on the stage, and it was a pretty small lineup. Smallest Klash. And I kind of think it makes sense. We had 54 bikini Olympians on stage December 10th.
Yeah, and knowing that the next one is until November of this year,
right. And nobody from the Arnold kept going. I thought maybe like an Ivana or a Romina might show up at the Clash and just be like, okay, I need to get my qualification.
Yeah. Yeah.
But then we had another standout. Amy was on the list, and I think she was immediately everybody's like,
Oh,
okay,
of course she's a favorite.
she's the favorite. But then we had a couple interesting entries. Most
Mhm.
notably for me was Priscilla Linebacher,
Yes,
who was
she
one
came
of the
back.
top pros when you turned pro. She won the
Yep.
Pittsburgh Pro. She was in the Arnold. I don't remember her placing at the Olympia, but I just remember she was one of the names. If she was on the list, she was going to be contending.
Yeah. I
I
mean,
think
and
she
she's
got
a stunning,
13.
she's real, yeah, I mean, she's just a gorgeous competitor, amazing
Oh,
shape.
yeah.
So, we're all, I think, pretty, anyone who knows obviously of her was probably excited to see her come back, and see what she was bringing. Definitely a little softer in the glutes, than like, I think if she was maybe a couple pounds, off, then it might have been a different outcome, honestly, because she just has that shape.
Yeah.
But, it was her first show back. So we all kind of know how that goes. You get your first show out, get some peeking in, kind of see how things go. And then things usually start to get rolling a little bit after that. So she
Yeah.
might maybe do girl power or like something in the next couple weeks.
I asked Kim, what her plan was, and she's staying in the States for a while.
Okay.
So I think through Pittsburgh. So she's probably doing Pittsburgh and New
Mm.
York. And, so if she's coming,
So she's really making a comeback, or
international,
at least
yeah,
trying to. Yeah.
not much motivates a competitor more than disappointment. You know that. Like
Oh,
I
yeah.
always tell people, like, Daraja getting second place is the best case scenario for her because she will
I'm like,
be
never
pissed
again.
off. Yeah. So that's a different kind of energy. So although Priscilla wasn't in the mix at this show, when she walked out from the front, I was like, damn, she looks
Yeah, she
good.
was
Like,
pretty,
yeah, great
her front
shape.
pose.
The
Yeah.
other was Brittany Gillespie, who was the nationals champion overall in 2021. And she's got that unicorn waist glute shoulder thing
Mhm.
going on where it's just like,
Ratios are crazy.
wow, ratios are crazy. And that's ended up, who it ended up being. Pretty quickly, they put Amy and they put Brittany side by side. And then, little pat on the back to myself. I was very happy. Kathy was in the mix there. She was right next to them.
Yes. A big shout out to Kathy. Huge jump from her previous, I think was her rookie season, right?
Yeah, so she did her pro debut a few weeks after turning pro, actually with you at Janet's Battle of the Bodies.
Yep.
Different head judge, and I think she got, third call out.
Yeah.
She was not in the mix at that show.
And then she took what, a year? Was it a whole year off?
Yeah, so that would have been, I believe it was July that year.
Yep.
So it was July of 2021. So we're looking at more than a year and a half, right? So, not quite 2 years, but 19, 20 months off. And
because her biggest thing was just she has the shape and everything. It was just that shape. She needed the muscularity, the density.
yep.
A little bit
And
more
then that's always going to
fullness.
be, she's a tall competitor. She turned pro in class F. So she's like 5'5", 5'6" in that range.
Yeah, she is tall. She's a tall girl.
And she's always going to have that. And she has, decided to remain natural. So it's always going to be about
Slower
putting muscle on
progression.
her. Yeah. But she also
Yeah.
took that time off and got into a very serious relationship. She's never been
She got her
happier.
life, honey.
She's got her career. Like,
Yeah.
she rode the motorcycle with her boyfriend and came to like North Americans last year. Like, she's just a happy person. And
that's what we call thriving.
Yes. So for her to get into that first call out made me very happy because
oh my gosh, yeah.
she even told me after, she's like, I had low expectations. She's like, I just wanted to get noticed. So I think she was probably low key thinking, okay, can I get into the top 10? I'll be happy.
Well, she's also just one of the sweetest people. So like whenever something good happens, it's like somebody like that, you're just like, yes.
Everybody roots for her. I get more messages when she's in a good position. I get so many messages. And not for nothing, if you're not familiar with Kathy, she won the overall at the Clash at the NPC show in 2021 and won the overall at NPC Universe. So she's a damn good competitor. And actually, what's funny is someone mentioned to me the top 3 at this show. So Kathy ended up in third. Were all national overall champions. Amy was USA's. Brittany
oh
was
wow, I didn't know that.
and she was so I think that happened with you one time at a show. There was like a couple overall national champions with you.
Yep.
In a lineup.
That's happened before for sure.
Yeah, and so that's just cool to see because those are at those shows, you basically want a pro show, because
But I
when
guess
you're in
that's
the
why,
overall,
that's why
everyone's a
they're overall
pro.
champions,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when you get a group of girls at a national show where there's 200-300 competitors and you get the top 8, the person that wins that, there's a reason.
Yeah.
So, there is that potential. So give me your thoughts, because Amy made some pretty, she made some changes. She didn't just stick with the status quo.
Yeah, I think honestly, I think she looked pretty amazing. I thought she looked that like kind of like fullness, like bursting out of your skin, like fullness. I thought she really brought to the Olympia. So I felt like she wasn't quite as full. Maybe they were just a little bit more conservative with this one, just trying to kind of veer on the side of caution, making sure they didn't maybe spill over.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, her front pose, dude, is like wild. Like her glutes, I know that was what she's been working on that, she said it a few times, as far as like what her feedback's been and what they've been working on improving. So she definitely brought it. I mean, she brought the improvements. I thought she changed her suit color because I think she wore blue at Olympia and she wore red this time.
I'm wondering if that's because, I don't know if you remember, but when they did the first call out, I don't even know if it was the first call out. I think it was the first group at the Olympia, and every single girl was wearing blue. And
at the Arnold, everyone was wearing blue. Yeah,
and I
yeah.
wonder
A lot of girls were wearing blue.
Because at this show, I felt like hardly anyone wore blue. I'm like, I wonder if it's like.
Well, I thought the first, like even the first like 3 or the first group, I thought even like had mostly red suits.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this is them going, okay, I'm not going to get stuck in a lineup wearing all blue. And then everyone went red. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I thought it looked really pretty on her, to be honest. She has that really dark hair. And I thought it was nice, and it made her stand out for sure. But
yeah, I like it when girls try new things, and bright red, it definitely suited her. It is a risk because the tan gets a little like, orange in the color.
You don't always know if it's going to contrast.
Yeah. So, but her physique is, I mean, gosh, there's really nothing to say. Like, she can be shades better or worse, and she's still going to win in most lineups. Right. So, the interesting one was seeing her next to Brittany Gillespie, who has that crazy, unique, waist to shoulder to glute ratios. And I think it was a lot closer than people thought.
It looked really close to me, because I mean, Brittany definitely brought a nice full package, great shape, posing was on point. If anything, to me, like her tan was just the only thing that I think didn't hit the mark. It was just looked a little bit light. I think she maybe looked a little bit tanner at finals, so I think they kind of maybe tried to add another coat. I don't know if that would have made the difference or not, but I know you mentioned something about her front pose looked a little bit
I thought she changed her front pose for finals. I thought at prejudging she was, I call it like the 90-degree pose, where your belly button is basically
like straight sideways.
Yeah. And then if you just bring it forward like 20 or 30 degrees, you get a little more shoulder width. And honestly, her waist is so small. I mean, you might be able to say it's too small, like, which sounds dumb, because that's obviously, but like when you're sideways with a waist that small, you almost look.
And she has a long torso too.
Yes.
So I think that draws even more attention to that. And I think can just throw off the balance, obviously, because you can have crazy ratios, but you also have to make it look like they're in balanced proportion. That's why I usually always tell girls, like, no, don't go straight 90, like go like between 45 and 60 degrees.
Yeah. And that's, so I thought she made that adjustment, but after, I just inquired with Sandy. I said, so what was going on with pro prejudging? And she said, oh, we didn't decide till finals. Like they were literally, it
was that close.
It was up in the air. It was that close. And at finals, Amy came back fuller, and that was the deciding factor. And I definitely noticed, and I thought pretty substantially, which is interesting considering there was only maybe 4 hours. Like they got done around 11:30 and they went on at 4. Right. Yeah.
Well, we've seen that. I mean, we did the same. We've seen that happen before.
I know how to do it.
If you get a good meal in, get some rest, get some water. Yeah.
I mean, I'll even have somebody go lift. A big meal and a little lift can really put some volume in those muscles, drives all that water, sodium, and carbs to your muscles. So you especially when you're stage lean, you can change the physique 15% in a few hours. if you know what you're doing, or if you know the body very well. So yeah, so she came back. They didn't do, they did the, when they brought them back out, they didn't look at them very long. They literally faced the back, and I think they saw what they needed to see.
That's what they were. Yeah.
And they were like, okay, Amy came back. What'll be interesting is how she proceeds. Does Amy now then go, okay, now I want to really put my stamp on this year? Am I going to Pittsburgh or New York? Or am I more focused on the Olympia? Because technically she had not a break. I mean,
I know the way I would play it, I'd be done. Just because, you don't want to be tired, getting that close or this far out from the Olympia and then trying to drag it out, not even just physically, but mentally. Because she did Tampa Pro. We did Tampa Pro together in August last year. So
Tampa Pro wasn't her first show. That was like her third or fourth show. And I didn't follow her too closely before that. I don't know if she competed a lot before that even. So yeah, I mean, from the outside looking in, of course, I'd say, hey, it's probably pretty smart to take a break. But
if she knows and
there's only a couple shows that have that ring to it.
That stamp on them. Yeah.
Pittsburgh Pro is probably, in my mind, getting up there with the Arnold now, where it's like Pittsburgh Pro, the Arnold, Tampa Pro, New York Pro, maybe the Toronto Pro, like some of those titles that are really big. And I'm not trying to leave any out, but those are the ones that are popping in my head right now. And when you're that close, you start to get a little pressure from people. Hey,
I know,
they want to see you on those big stages. So we'll see. I mean,
but if she feels, the thing is too, like competitors, like it's going to depend on the person. Like if she feels good and she's like, dude, like I can keep going, then like, do you, dude?
Yeah. I mean, there were times last year when I was like, Lana, you are done. And she was like, cool.
I know.
And we took a break and she didn't gain any weight. And she was like, okay, I can do another show now. And I'm like,
exactly.
So
yeah, so you never know.
She's unique. You and I have never really run into that where like we do a couple shows and then you're like, I'm out. Like, yeah, peace. And that's good. You know yourself. I've always appreciated it. You don't run yourself into the ground.
Oh man, yeah.
So
I don't know what that is.
Well, I mean, it's knowing yourself. It's just
I was like, I'm not lazy. I'm just
no. It's like for you to be, the numbers changed over the years, but every time you hit, 115, 116, 117, those numbers for you, that's where the energy drops off. So
oh yeah. So, and for me, like that's the big thing. But like I said, if you still feel good, like go for it. But I know for me, like I can't, that's not sustainable for me personally. My body, the energy, the mental acuity, everything starts to suffer. And I'm like, okay, priorities need to shift so I can prioritize other things. But,
and that's a competitor by competitor place. And if you continue, like, let's say we're in Amy's shoes and we continue to May and do those two shows. And now you've got the Olympia a month earlier in November. I mean, we saw what happened with Laura Lee. It's hard to pick it back up later in the year.
It is hard.
And I always, this is something that's true for me and you. Our first show is never our best show.
Nah.
It's usually 3 or 4. That's where it's like, we got this now. We know exactly what weight we want to be. We know what we want to eat the night before the show. We know how much we want to pump up. But that first show, it's always like it's a little more conservative.
It's feeling it out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I would never, in my opinion, I would never want the Olympia to be the first show that you've had in like 6 months or a year. Like you need to.
That would make me nervous.
Honestly, what Jennifer Dory did last year was quite amazing. She took the entire year off and came back better at the Olympia than she'd ever been. Like she nailed her peak. She did. I know a lot of people had her winning. A lot of people that were at that judging table had her winning. It was very close at the Olympia. So
yeah, it wasn't unanimous.
That's harder to do than most people think.
Than people think. Yeah, you're like, oh, you have all this time off, so you should just come back better. It's like,
yeah. Now the time off did her good, and she was able to dial it in and peak. But that's not always the case, and you don't get a second chance to do prejudging at the Olympia. You get one shot.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So, and then, let's talk a little bit about Kathy, because she got some really good feedback.
What was her feedback?
So she doesn't have the wow factor that the top two has, right? Like she doesn't have these massive glutes or this crazy structure. But what Kathy has, and this is what both the judges I spoke to said, when you look over the lineup, you're looking for flaws, and she does no flaws. There's no like, there's no.
That's a good way to put it.
She's perfectly balanced. She has a very nice structure, wide shoulders. She has a super tiny waist, big round glutes. She doesn't have those etched in tie-ins. She just has a really nice.
They're just full.
It's like
bubbly.
a bubble. Yeah. So when you're picking apart people and you're like, okay, a little bit too hard on the glutes. Okay, I can see a little bit too much here. You just keep looking back at Kathy. They said they just kept looking at her and we're like, man, there's nothing to pick apart.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Her feedback was maybe a little fuller in the shoulders. And so
we actually have a posing session on Thursday.
And I think she'll probably tell you, so, you know, the great thing about the way we peaked her was like, I think the day before the show, she was close to 400 carbs and 70 fat. Like she was, I mean, and the girl had to, and she woke up the same weight on show day. So we had to have 3 meals before stage. She was stuffing her face on show day.
Oh my God.
So that's she wild. Was pretty full, but I said, you know, we didn't do a burger. You know, we stayed, we did some ground beef because I love the red meat, you know that, but I didn't want to go full burger fries because, you know, it's the first show. So I said, tonight after the show, let's hit these numbers. I gave her some numbers hit and a burger and fries. And she sent me some pictures Sunday morning from the gym, and her shoulders were 10% bigger.
Full and round.
And her glutes were still tight. So we may, for Wasatch, be more aggressive with peaking.
There's just something about that, throwing a little dirt in there that just like makes that fullness stick, you know?
Yeah. When you eat that clean for that long, you just burn through it faster. Like there's it's just hard. Your body just goes, doesn't make sense because you're like, okay, I have no body fat and now I'm eating more food than I was in the off season.
But that was the perfect way to test that, you know, have our show, fill out, and then try this the next day and see what happens. Because you're still stage lean, you're still peaked.
Yeah. Well, and she didn't have any cravings. You know, the nice thing about eating a bunch of food on show day and the day before, you're not like, Coach, what can I have? Literally everyone was like, can I just go home?
That my client even said that. She was like, I don't know, I'm not really that hungry. I was like, cool.
Everybody from the show that checked in, I had them check in Tuesday, was at stage weight still. All 4 of my girls.
That's awesome.
So now we're all lining up for Wasatch and we're going to come back better. With the exception of Chris, she's going to do girl power because we do
cool.
We need to get her leaner. Like that was her feedback, come leaner. So and Wasatch is across the country, right? So like obviously Kathy's doing it, you know, after you get a 3rd place as a pro, now we're going to go see a new judge in a new city.
Yeah, keep picking up that momentum.
Yeah. And we know Ashley K is going to be there, but I was like, you know, we could be side by side with Ashley K.
Wait, is she competing or did she
announced she's doing Wasatch? Yeah.
Oh, really?
She's won it 2 years in a row.
Is it? Okay.
I think she just
I know she won it once.
They give out those damn Thor hammers, and one of these days you're going to get me one.
Or Kathy, or somebody else.
Or Kathy, or I'm bringing a really good amateur this year. My girl Catriona, if you guys are familiar.
Oh, yeah.
She's doing the NPC Wasatch, so I'm bringing her in to come in and get me one of them damn hammers.
Maybe you should do. Maybe I'll try to do Sasquatch Pro against like and win that damn Sasquatch trophy.
Yeah, that was a cool trophy. It's like the Bigfoot.
It was just a giant Sasquatch. Yeah,
it was.
But cool. So there's a couple shows coming up. Gonna be interesting to see what those lineups look like because, like we said, the Olympia is a long ways away.
It is, but it isn't. Like it's already April in 2 days, and it feels like it's so far away, but it's sneaky.
Holy shit!
It's April.
Oh my God!
In a couple days. So we've got April, May, June, July, August, September, October. So we've got 7 months to qualify from now.
Because the cutoff 4th, is October 8th. Is it
8th?
It's the 8th. It's the 8th.
Okay.
Yeah,
I knew it was somewhere in there. So like, that's not. And there's considerably less shows. Like we've already. The Boston Pro is gone. The Golden State was a pro show last year. It's not this year. There's another show in Vegas. The Jay Cutler show was a pro show last year. It's not this year. So there's it's going to be interesting because it's going to be very backlogged at the end of the year. You're going to have, 40 something
some heavy
pros
hitters
that are not qualified coming out. So you're going to have some lineups at the end of the year that are like 12 Olympians in them.
I definitely keep getting that question is when am I competing again?
Yeah.
But yeah, our plan is to hit, a series of shows and like starting in September is the plan.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, with you, it's the same story. We need to get the feedback that this, like let's say we come out and you do the first show and they're like, this is it,
That's
bring it to
it.
the Olympia. We might be done. We might be done. Or,
Yeah.
okay, you could be full or tighter. Okay, maybe we'll do another one. So
Yeah.
the strategy around getting the Olympic qualification has just changed significantly. And I'm wondering if less people are going to compete this year because of that. Because although, you know, there's only 3 people that qualified on points, there was some cachet in getting Olympia points. Because I told
Yeah.
Kathy, I said, you know, you got paid as a pro. That's a cool thing. Like there's these tiers of competing. How many
It
girls are
is.
pro but have never gotten paid? Right. So now
Right.
Kathy's got paid at her second pro show. But last year it was like, it was kind of fun to be like, okay, Lana got some points, right? And then Brittany got some points. And then Lana
It's
got some
like you're
more
just watching
points.
this
And
little
then Brittany
like,
won. And then,
yeah.
yeah. And it's like, you know, and then Sally won a show. So I was like kind of like excited to just be like, okay, we got points at all these shows. Ain't no more points. So are
You gotta
girls
win and get
going
in.
to, are girls going to do like 2-3 shows and then shut it down?
Right. Yeah. I mean, that could definitely probably scare away some
Or if
people
someone
too.
like you announces you're doing a show, does that cut the lineup in half? Because girls are going to be like, okay, there's only a handful of girls that when you're on can beat you. Do they go, I'm not even going to bother? Or do
Mm,
they still do the shows? You know, I'll be curious to see how it unfolds
right.
and who
Yeah.
announces what they're doing. Because we all know the strategy of like no one signs up until the list comes out.
I know. I know.
Which you and I have played that game before. We've also said screw it and announced it like months in advance. So
Yeah. Yeah. I prefer to like wait as long as possible. Like I know we announced Tampa Pro last year. I'm not doing that ever again.
yeah, that added a lot of stress. And I think had we
Yeah,
not had our
man.
contract in, we wouldn't have done the show.
No, I would not have gotten on stage. Yeah,
But then
if
if we
y'all
didn't do that, who's to say we wouldn't have won Dallas, right? Like,
that's true. It could have unfolded in a bunch of different ways.
yeah,
But no one likes to not have a great showing. So
yeah, no. You and especially this year, if you're not competitive to win, there's very little benefit. Like there was girls last year that did 13 shows, 14 shows, and Lana was one of them because they started to climb that points list and you start paying attention, you know, and you would go, okay, if I get a second at a tier 2 show, I get 8 points. That's going to, you know, that was Lana actually got second at the Legion.
yeah.
And I didn't realize until afterwards that it was like a tier 3 show or it was a higher tier. So she didn't get 4 points. She got like 8. And that
Oh, okay.
catapulted her above everybody on the list, except I think Jody at the time. So like there was,
Oh, wow,
you
okay.
know, it makes my life easier. Last year it was like stressful trying to navigate the points. This year it's like, okay,
Oh, definitely.
it's all about having that strategy. And, you know, me and Brittany right now, she's a few weeks out. We've got a run of shows planned, but our plan is to get qualified, bang, right
Yeah.
away, get it done, then have a show or two for fun, then, you know, get her into that top 10 at the
Dial
Olympia.
into, yeah.
Right. And so I told Kathy on the phone today, I called her, I said, well, we got a problem. And she was like, what? I said, we got to get you Olympia qualified now. Like, that's the job. Like, now that you're
That's the next step.
right. Like,
Well, yeah, yeah.
I mean, she's third. Like, she's 2 spots away from the Olympia at that show. And, you know, that she's like, yeah, it didn't really hit me till I was flying home. And I was like, oh, wait a second, you know? So, you know, but that's the fun because a lot of girls have never even placed third, you know?
Yeah.
So, but again, fullness. That is, I feel like they are just not going to reward you. And to be fair, I had a girl, Kiki, who has really crazy structure. It was our first show together. And I really thought she was going to be a standout. And they just did not like her. They said she was too hard, which she was full as
Yeah.
hell. I mean, I fed her a ton of food, but she did have a little bit of like a hint of some striations. Her rear delts were kind of popping. So she stood out a little bit.
Especially
Not in the
when
way.
especially when they walk you, like that's
Yep.
part of why they walk us, honestly, is to see the level of conditioning. Um, and so, you know, when you walk, you can see her glutes like ripple a little bit. And that's
Yep.
probably what, you know, one of the things, because she did look amazing. I mean, she
Yeah.
like there were, aside from just being on the leaner side, being a little bit too conditioned, I mean, there were very little flaws, if any,
Yeah. And I
that
told
I
her, I
could
said,
see.
listen, I know we didn't get the result we wanted. I think she got 12th or 11th, but I was very proud of that physique. Like
Mhm.
as a coach, I'm like, I will put my stamp on
She
that
looked
physique
amazing.
10 days a week. Now we have to fit the criteria for the division. We're going to make the adjustment. We're going to put some body fat on and come in a little bit fuller and just a touch softer. And we're doing Wasatch. So like, this is the job. It's dial it in. And I've seen it many times before. Girls go from 12th to first, 12th to second, like
It
there's,
can happen.
oh my gosh, overnight. And, there's
That's
going to
why
be
you
some,
just cannot get hung up on placings. Like it really can depend on so much.
yeah. Yeah. No, and it can hurt your feelings, but sometimes you're getting your feelings hurt is the best thing that can happen to you as a
Yeah,
competitor. You can find out, what, this isn't for me, or to hell with that.
that's
We'll
true.
probably talk about this forever. It's on a video. You walking off the Olympia stage at your debut, you were like, nope, not feeling like
Yeah.
this again.
That second, what was it? The third call out? That third call out just hit different. I was like, I can't do that again.
Yep, yep. And that was a tough year. Like we weren't happy at just about any show we did, you know. From the Arnold on, all those shows that year were just felt like a struggle to
It
get.
was it felt like a mountain to climb coming back from that for sure.
Yeah.
That's what that felt
So,
like.
but you still were,
We're here, baby. We're here.
yeah, you were still Olympia qualified. And, now, I mean, thank goodness we went through that,
Yeah.
because if you told me when you got off stage in 2020 at the Olympia that you were going to be fourth in 2 years, I would have been like, I'll take it. Like, what? Sign me up for that. Like,
Yeah,
so
for
that's,
sure.
you can't connect the dots forward. You can only look back and go, oh, that was the right decision. And so I think
Hmm.
we've done a good job. And as a coach, I've learned a lot through your journey, not to rush. There were times with Lana last year that I felt pressure to put her in certain shows. And I said, no, Lana,
Hmm.
it's not worth doing certain shows.
Yeah.
Between her budget and her body, like we
And the
needed to play the
priority.
game,
Yeah.
because you start to get, your eyes are bigger than your stomach
You
when
can
it
get
comes.
distracted for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah. And to be fair, like, once you start doing well as a pro, you're like, oh my gosh. And everyone comes out of the woodwork, come do my show, come do this show. And you just,
Yeah.
you want to feel like, oh wow, I'm really wanted right now. So
And
it's
sometimes it is a good move to do that, to say, oh,
100%.
okay, like, I'll go ahead and jump in here.
Yeah.
But it has to align with
Yep.
everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Not many people compete in this sport that are financially just, they can do
right.
whatever they want, right?
It's expensive.
That's a major consideration, because you're not gonna make money as a pro competitor unless you're getting paid travel expenses, get some sponsors maybe, and maybe you win a show here and there.
Hmm.
But for most competitors, it's a passion. It's not a, sometimes people
A
ask me like, oh, what
career.
does first place get at this pro show? And I go, nobody cares.
Yeah.
Outside of like the Arnolds and the Olympias, like I think it was a couple $1,000. Like that's awesome. Don't get me wrong. But that's, if I said, hey, Daraja, you can have the title or the $3,000. I think most girls are going to say, give me that title and that Olympia qualification. Keep your money.
Yeah.
Now, when we get to the big bucks, that's a little different. But what'd you get for the Olympia? That was probably your biggest payday, right?
It was 7,000 was
Definitely the
the
most, right? That was more than any
that was the
win.
most I've ever,
Yeah.
yeah. For sure. So that was cool. It was cool. I got to actually pick it up at the Wings of Strength headquarters too.
Called Keith. He's like, got our honeymoon paid for.
Yeah. Basically.
All right. So where will we see you next? Let's wrap it up.
Well, I will be at Girl Power. That is my next show that I'll be at. So obviously I'll be there with the team. I have a client that is planning on competing at that show, and then I'll probably try to, if anyone's interested, meet up for some in-person posing. I've had that question a few times since then. So
Yeah. I mean,
yeah,
honestly, I think it's probably a good idea to do some in-person posing. We're already there.
right.
And if you can meet at that Iron Religion gym, gosh, they've got a really nice, they actually upgraded the posing room. They put some carpet in there. They put better lighting
Yeah,
in there.
it is nice. It is nice.
Ashley Bowden was so nice to film us and take pictures of
Oh,
us.
she was awesome.
The pictures in that room came out really nice. Actually, I've got to put together my vlog. I got tons of footage. I'm going to do that
Oh,
today.
that's right. You did vlog.
I had tons of footage. So yeah, I love those vlogs. I just look back at them. I have, I have I get bored. I'll put on our Michigan trip. I don't know why, but that was such a fun trip. Like, I mean,
Yeah, it was.
Just stuff like that. Like, you don't realize, I love looking
I
back
definitely
at
want to
stuff.
I want to get back into doing some of that this year. So I have some stuff in the works. But my problem is like my memory and my storage. Like I'm not tech savvy and I don't have a desktop computer. It's just my laptop and like an external hard drive. So I need to figure out how to more efficiently preserve my memory space so I can actually like edit and upload videos.
Yeah, you can just have multiple external drives. You can upgrade the drive on your computer. There's a couple different options, but yeah, the way videos are, even like if your phone, if you're doing a 4K or 8K video, those are huge files. So we want more video, Daraja. Let's go.
I know, I'm trying.
Come
I'm
on.
trying.
Come on. You're a good
I have no wedding to
representation.
plan this year, so maybe that's what I'll do with all my free time.
All right. So Girl Power is 4 weeks and like 5 days
3.
away.
Is it 4 weeks? Oh wow.
Yeah, because this month coming up is a long month.
Okay. Okay.
Yep.
So 4 weeks, and
It's
then
5
after
weekends.
that, well, we'll be starting prep soon.
I'm telling you,
Around
you
that
said,
time,
oh, this is a
so
long year, but like I think probably the end of next month we'll be looking at seeing how your body's responding.
yeah, I'll be like date night every week every week until then.
Yeah. Well, I'd like you to keep date nights in at least, as long as you can in prep. I think that's important.
Yeah. I mean, I've used to do that. I just get like steak and potatoes or chicken and something, easy stuff. But
all right.
yeah, I'm
So Girl
excited.
Power, I'm going to be at Wasatch. I think there's 3 weeks to Wasatch, 5 to Girl Power. So I think I'll have a couple weeks off in between there. And then it gets really crazy in May. Because we've got, I think technically Girl Power's in May. Then we've got Pittsburgh Pro, Junior USA's. I think I'm gone every weekend in May.
I don't even want to think about that.
And then June as Junior Nationals. So it's going to be fun.
Well, once I start prep, my time for travel, I'm telling you right
I'm
now,
going to the Charlotte Pro.
Is so limited. Oh, that's right. That's right.
The week. That's the week before Girl Power.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I did a lot of traveling last year when I was in prep, and I think I'm gonna try not doing that.
I think we learned how well your body responds just being at Dallas and Brett's, like just being in that bubble of just eat, sleep, cardio, train, repeat, go outside and be zen. Like you were like, man, you just,
yeah.
I'm
Let's do that again.
I'm still curious. Like, what if we had one more week? We won the damn Olympia. Like, the rate you were responding, man, it would have been very interesting.
We'll find out this year. Don't worry.
Oh no, we're gonna get back to that. 2020. No,
I don't remember. 2021.
Was it?
That was
2019. Your undefeated year.
Oh yeah, that was my undefeated season.
Yeah, overall pro win. Yeah.
So casual.
That was fun. Yeah. Yeah, that was fun. Everyone's like, you should do one more show. I was like, hell no.
I'm good.
Shut it down.
But
all right. Well, thank you for your feedback and thank you for your time. And
thanks for having me on. I like getting to come on here.
You got posing available right now? Right
now is a little full, but the rest of my calendar through July will be opening at the end of April. So just keep an eye out on my banner on my website for when I'll be opening posing.
And your website is
empoweredtopose.com. The link is always in my bio. So if you're ever lost, just go back to my bio.
All right. Daraja, I thank you. And
thanks, Paul.
I'll talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye. Hold on a second. I gotta end it with my computer's frozen.
Uh-oh. Technical difficulties.
Yeah, sometimes the mouse goes haywire and I just have to put it into sleep mode and pull it back out. And then I can hit stop recording. And